Okay, so let me premise this video by stating that this is neither the only nor primary content I plan to create on this channel. I'm simply starting weekly overviews back up because there's been a sudden influx in shows appealing to my taste, and at the moment, I have a huge gap of time due to some previously mentioned events. So over the course of the season, I'll be adding and removing shows to talk about on a weekly basis, and I'll provide timestamps in the description since YouTube removed annotations for whatever fucking reason. The plan is to talk about at least Railgun, ID Invaded, and Dorohedoro throughout this season. At the time of recording, Dorohedoro has not aired and will be a part of the next overview, and ID Invaded won't be included in this episode because I watched the first 2 episodes before the initial air date, and I just don't fucking remember enough to make a fair critique given how complex the show actually is. So, soon to join this list will be the ReZero's Director's Cut. However, I'll only be talking about it whenever there are new scenes adapted or animated, as mentioned by various other news outlets and stuff. Because most of you have heard me beat the fucking show into the ground, so, with all that being stated, let's begin. It has been a half-decade since the last Railgun installment, and until its announcement early last year, I had all but given hope on seeing my waifu shockingly turn my limp asexual apparatus into my firm, throbbing asexual apparatus. At some point, you start to realize sequels aren't always a necessity, oftentimes the reason being a lack of possible progression points for characters involved, nobody wanting to watch the author needlessly and aimlessly create artificial drama in hopes to cash grab on what made the original series successful at the time, a steep nosedive in production quality while other parts of the show stay stagnant in their mediocrity, etc, etc. Fortunately, Railgun 3rd does not fall into this categorization, as the introduction we've been given thus far has clearly flawed characters with room for development and interpersonal dynamics that keep them interesting. Railgun has always stood out from its parent series due to 3 large factors: its main cast being astronomically more complex and interesting, its relentless effort to world build and create a setting in Academy City that actually feels like a thriving, living location, and its ability to seamlessly switch between a slice of life atmosphere to an utterly dire and desperate tone whenever the fuck it pleases. And you know, it just looks better. Referencing only the first episode, the Railgun series' interesting tone, its rather aristocratic yet hands-in-the-mud, grounded look at a supernatural society shines brightly during the scenes in the first episode's climax, Misaka's initial invitation to compete in the tournament, etc. A lot of this results from the solid direction choices, from the lighting to the smart framing to simple details such as Satin turning her body away from the conversation when she was obviously suspicious of Kuroko. Railgun is always detailed, fair and logical, and mysterious in how it handles both conflict and menial exposition points, and it's this attention to mystery and detail that blends into the show's characters seamlessly. There are some newer characters introduced with interesting and, again, mysterious dynamics, alongside a fairly dark and dastardly mystery planted at the episode's end, and the show is well animated, surprisingly well shot, and it may have always been like this, but again, it's been over half a fucking decade, so I wouldn't remember. Effects animation in both the episode and the opening were colorful, saturated, and frankly cool as fuck, as was expected, and yeah, I mean, it's Railgun. There isn't much to say. The show is JC Staff's, saving grace, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. Plunderer is about lying and beating up women, both of which were great hobbies of my crackhead albino stepdad. Plunderer was fucking weird to say the least. I'm writing this overview far after seeing the episode, but the details are still fresh in my mind because the show was fucking dumb. Easily one of the unintentionally funniest first episodes I've seen in some time. I say unintentionally because the blatantly comedic moments of a guy molesting a girl simply weren't funny to me. I know that's a shocker, but believe it or not, I don't actually rape women with tattoos. The idea of a main character being so blatantly overpowered that the shockwaves of his steps are capable of beating the shit out of a lying, impersonating rapist and women beater was quite hilarious, but it was not as funny as said scumbag just getting pummeled seemingly over and over and over again by this legendary ace after his stints of not respecting women. Also funny was the rapey portrayal of spreading the legs and cheeks of this naive Miku clone for the Death Stranding hoodlums to add and snatch a number from I'm not even gonna finish that. You gotta ask yourself why this girl's mother made her daughter so susceptible to sexual assault at some point, right? Aside from the unintentional comedy, the show is, again, dumb, but somehow not terrible? The world building is quite shallow, but there's a decent attempt to explain what small bits of information are actually given. The setting is a generic fantasy, but somehow at the end of the episode, some guy randomly pulls out a Bluetooth headset, speaking to God knows fucking where from his pocket, which we're just supposed to accept for whatever fucking reason. The animation is sometimes cool, but is widely speaking mediocre and sometimes just laughable. The main female character is cute but absurdly fucking naive, but the legendary Ace, who is initially just some pervert, actually turns out to be a really cool, sympathetic, rather interesting guy with a simple yet pleasantly eye-catching design. Speaking of character designs, they're all over the fucking place. We've got Ragna, or Hakumen, or any demon lord from any isekai ever. We've got generic Yaru dark-skinned Dojin woman, a pretty background character with beautiful thighs, a mother with... Oh, wait. That last person I mentioned was the main character? Oh, fuck. If the show wasn't so unforgettably weird and laughably terrible at certain points, I'd probably just drop it by now. But since it's entertaining and I'm watching it with a group of people in hopes to improve what would otherwise be a torturous watching experience, I'll stick with it until it's just bad and uninteresting, you know, instead of just bad. And that's all I've really got for today. As I said, Dorohedoro will be a part of this next week, probably ID Invaded as well, but ID Invaded's too complicated for me to just kind of write out my ass about. And there are a lot of moving pieces in that show, clearly based on the first 2 episodes. ReZero will be talked about at certain points if I do see any newly animated scenes and I think they add any sort of context to the story and whatnot. I think that's it. But yeah, remember, this is not the primary content on this channel. This is the secondary content. You will see the secondary content more than you see the primary content because the primary content takes a very long time to write and produce. So, but rest assured, I am definitely working on it. I'll have an update out probably within a couple of days to explain what I'm kind of wanting to do with this channel. But yeah, thanks for watching. I will see you guys next week, maybe the week afterwards, depending on if I think next week doesn't have enough to talk about. But yeah, I'll keep you updated. Thanks for sticking around. Deuces.